As those shifts take place, we have to make sure that we're mitigating according to the direction of the wind and the atmosphere. I have some folks from the EPA and EPD who are experts in those areas, and they'll talk about air quality at this time. EPA.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rick Jardine. I'm a federal on-scene coordinator with the Environmental Protection Agency, the Emergency Response Program. EPA joined the Unified Command on Sunday and remain committed to stay with this incident until their safe conditions prevail. We've been conducting air monitoring, or even increasing and establishing more air monitoring stations daily, partnering with other air monitoring entities, gathering that information, and sharing that information with all of our response partners, like the county, like the state, the health organizations. Again, we're committed to stay here and provide that information and expertise, as well as help set objectives, strategies, and tactics throughout this response. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to bring up Dr. Paxton, who is with Public Health for the state.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Lynn Paxton. I'm the interim director for the Gwinnett and Newton Rockdale Health District. I'm sorry, I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Dr. Paxton. I am the interim health director for the Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale Health Center. And what I am going to do today is, and please excuse my referring down to my notes, but it's important. We have been receiving a number of inquiries from the public about the current incident and medical effects. So I'm going to attempt to respond to the most important ones and to give you directions as to how you can obtain further information. Now, as we know, to our knowledge, the chemicals released from this fire are chlorines, chloramine, and chlorine compounds. And these sorts of compounds can irritate the skin and the mucous membranes, including the eyes, the nasal passages, and the respiratory system. So people who already have pre-existing conditions affecting these parts of the body may be more likely to develop symptoms from this exposure. The recommendations that we have for everyone are to include limiting exposure to these compounds by staying indoors with closed windows and doors if you're in that area where you are seeing this haze. You should turn off any HVAC system that can pull in outdoor air. However, if you have an HVAC system that just recirculates the air that you already have indoors, it is okay to leave that on, as long as you know that it's only recirculating indoor air. We've gotten this question a lot. N95 masks are unlikely to provide any benefit. The reason is this because the chlorine compounds are actually smaller than the size filtered by an N95 mask. So just wanted to put that out there. One important thing to keep in mind, which is good, is that the levels of the chemicals reported to date are below the levels that have previously been recognized to cause symptoms in most people. So while some people may develop symptoms even at these levels, that is a good thing. The level at which you can actually smell the chlorine in the air, which is what's happening right now, is actually below the level that actually causes a problem. So what I do want to completely emphasize, though, is that anybody who does develop any symptoms or any severe symptoms should seek emergency care from their primary care providers. People with non-emergent symptoms can call the Georgia Poison Center to discuss what they should do and whether they need to seek medical care. And we have a special number that's been established for this purpose. I'll repeat it. It's 404-856-6252. Again, the special number at the Georgia Poison Control Center for this situation is 404-856-6252. Now, as has been emphasized to you all, the conditions continue to change, so please continue to monitor local websites, the county websites, the GNR Public Health website. We are trying to keep up to date as much as we can with any recommendations. So thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Peak. I'm the director for Rockdale County Water Resources.
We've been receiving a lot of inquiries about the water quality here in Rockdale County. I can safely tell you that our water here in Rockdale County is safe to drink. What Rockdale County Water Resources is doing right now, we're running samples on the water streams downstream of the BioLab. Since this incident, we're running 3 samples a day. The samples are coming back in normal levels. We're also running samples on our watershed, at Haynes Watershed, and the samples are coming back normal levels. So the water here in Rockdale County is safe to drink.
So at this time, we'll give the media an opportunity to ask some questions. As you're getting your questions together and processing your thoughts, let me just say this. I want to take this opportunity to assure all of Rockdale County, all of the residents and businesses within the city of Conyers, and all of the metropolitan region of Metro Atlanta that is being impacted by this plume, that we do have all hands on deck. In addition, we will be coming back to you with periodic updates to give you updates as we continue to move throughout today and the remainder of this incident, which could very well mean the remainder of this week. Our key goal is to make sure from a communication standpoint, we're keeping all of our citizens and all of the general public in the loop as we progress through this and mitigate. I would ask that you please, ma'am, please, sir, be patient with us. We have the right experts here on the ground at Ground Zero, and we're present and making sure that we're communicating cohesively so that we can take care of our community and all of Metro Atlanta. I also want to encourage you to please follow us on all of our media platforms, which includes social media. Rockdale County is on every social media platform there is. If you are a resident of Rockdale County and you subscribe to Comcast Xfinity, you can find us on Channel 23. Otherwise, you can pick us up on all of the other media outlets. At this time, we'll entertain some questions, and those questions that I, as the chairman and CEO of Rockdale County, can answer myself, I will answer those. For particular and specific content experts, I'll call that expert to the podium. Yes, ma'am.
This one is for the fire chief. You talked about products being off-loaded. What products are those? And is it still off-gassing at current?
Yes, the product is still off-gassing, and we'll be doing that for however long it takes for that to clear out. But it is products, essentially, is pool shock. Trichloric acid is a product that's used to sanitize pools. It's water reactive, which is what is causing the plume. But it will be off-gassing for several days. But the more we can get it mitigated out of the hot zone into those rolling containers, the better it's going to be.
So just to be clear and make sure everyone knows, this is not a fire, you're still seeing a plume. What is that? That's just the chemical coming out?
Okay.
That's a very good question. Let me go ahead and make very clear. You will continue to see the plume. The plume is a natural part of our mitigation process. In other words, as the fire department, the personnel on site at BioLab, along with our EPA and EPD partners who are monitoring the air quality, one of the things that will continue as we move to mitigate this entire incident, you will continue to see the plume, which is one of the reasons why the doctor that we had here from the health department spoke to the different types of irritants and how you can be impacted, because we want people to know that it's a natural part of what's going to happen. You will continue to see that plume, but don't think that the situation is not under control or not being mitigated. It is being mitigated. Chief McDaniel, is there any additional you'd like to speak toward the plume that we'll see in the air, or that pretty much covers that? Any other questions?
How long should that take, you said?
We don't have a designated time, and let me say this to you about the time frame. Whereas we don't have a designated time, we are working very closely with the folks over at BioLab. Our fire department, EMA, are boots on the ground at this incident scene over at BioLab. We're going to stay there until this incident is completely resolved and extinguished completely all the way out, where it no longer exists. We want this to go away as soon as everybody wants it to go away, but it's going to be a process. In order to do it right, we've got to go through the process and take the right precautions. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned a strategy shift. Do you mind detailing exactly what the strategy currently is and what the end game is, you know, with the fumes and all that?
Well, so what I mentioned was a shift in the climate.
Right.
A shift in the climate. As you can feel the breeze on your sleeves right now with the wind blowing in from one direction to the next. We have no control of whether the wind goes to the east, the north, or the south. And there's a different impact during the daylight hours versus the night hours. So as the atmosphere shifts, the wind shifts, some of the mitigation procedures have to be changed in order to make sure that we're controlling as much of this as we possibly can. Once the plume is airborne, as it already is, it's going to move based upon the shift of the wind and the atmosphere that's moving. On the ground, decisions have to be made in terms of how we navigate through that process.
And has EPA designated what kind of site this is? Is that something that'll happen later?
I think we're too early in the process for EPA to give a final investigation, and that speaks also for the fire department and all of our agencies. We're still in the process of mitigating at this time. To come up with a complete investigation summary, we're not there yet. Our primary responsibility is to get this completely 100% under control. Once we've done that, we will begin to give out some preliminary reports and ultimately a final report. We're nowhere near that point at this time. Kim.
I know last night the shelter-in-place evacuation order lifted. Is that still to be stayed with all the shifting wind and fog moving around that we're seeing?
So in reference to the shelter in place that we put out last night, what we're encouraging folks to do today, once again during the daylight hours, I think you're much more safer to move and navigate throughout the community during the daylight hours. However, if you have any type of respiratory problems or health conditions or asthmatic problems, anything that deals with your respiratory system, we are strongly encouraging you to shelter in place and stay from the outside. If you have to conduct some business to whatever degree, we're asking that you do that during the daylight hours, because after sundown, this whole situation, primarily the climate, will shift and change, and things could be a little bit more severe during the after hours of the sundown. Absolutely.
Chairman, you said someone from BioLab was here. Do they want to say anything or give any message to the company?
We do have representatives from BioLab, and at this point, we want to assure the community that Rockdale County and all of our agencies are working cohesively with them. At this time, they're not prepared to give out any statements. What we're doing is working with them. We will be hearing from BioLab. Let me pause to say this again. As the community know here in Rockdale County, this is not the first incident we've had here in Rockdale County from BioLab. I want you to know that the office of the chairman, the office of the mayor, we all take this very serious. Our EMA director, our fire chief, and all of the agencies that are here are going to be having a real serious conversation with the corporate executive leadership of BioLab. Right now, our primary responsibility is to get this situation completely under control. So I just want to assure everybody that we are well aware that we've had this before. It's almost like Groundhog Day. We've seen this before and before and before, and it's concerning. BioLab has been a good corporate community partner, but this is not about economic development. This is about public health and public safety. And in Rockdale County, public safety has always been and will always be our #1 top priority. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other major businesses whose work has been interrupted within the county? Have they, under the shelter-in-place order, are they still able to function currently?
So, from an economic development standpoint, we will be releasing a new press release following this press conference, and we will be giving an advisory to not just the citizens, but all of the businesses as we go forth. So I would ask that you will stand by for that press release with all those details. Yes, ma'am.
The conversations with BioLab, will they
From a liability standpoint, it's way too early for us to talk about whether we're going to be shutting them down. Here's what I can tell you. We're concerned about the internal as well as the external safety and the operations over at BioLab. We're going to have to review what they're doing and what their plan looks like. That plan has to be reviewed by everybody that's a part of our emergency plan. That includes our fire department, our EMA, law enforcement, and all of the first responders from an executive level that's on hand. Once we review that, then we'll make a decision as to how we proceed. It's way too early for us to say and make an announcement that we're going to shut this corporate partner down. We are concerned. The conversations are very serious and they're very high level, so they will be very intentional and very direct. So we're going to be representing the people of Rockdale County. This has happened too many times, and our conversation will be in that direction.
Now, in terms of, I know you guys have done a lot of tests for the amount of chemicals that are in the air. In terms of those actual numbers and those actual readings, are those posted anywhere? Is there a spot where people can go see those actual test results that have been done?
So, Kim, one of the things that we're doing as we move forward immediately following this press conference, we will be making sure that all of our sites, all of our social media sites, and all of our platforms for media information that we can, our goal is to inundate the general public with as much information as possible. If anyone wants to know about air quality, where we are, we're going to give you as much of real-time information as we possibly can. We have received too many calls and emails and text messages from so many people. So we're encouraging folks to make sure they are tuning in to the right sources, And those right sources includes all of Rockdale County website, all of our platform, all of our social media. If we see the need to call another press conference at a later time or perhaps a later date, we will do that because our goal is to keep the general public updated. Again, this is not just impacting the city of Conyers and Rockdale County, but it's also impacting all of metropolitan Atlanta. There is a concern across the North region. I'm going to take one more question, and we'll move from there.
If you were Mr. Gardine, is the EPA's involvement here with federal level? Is that just the monitoring, or is that part of the whole investigation that the part of the chairman asked going forward? How does that impact how the EPA involved?
I apologize. I'm going to ask that you would restate your question for me, please.
Well, I know this for Mr. Gardine or for yourself about is the EPA, the federal involvement, was it involved just monitoring and just the mitigation, or is there the part going forward, like you said, that they're involved with about the investigating, going back to?
So let me speak to the reason, the why, as to the presence of the EPA, the federal government. The EPA, the federal government, has committed to give all of the support that we need here in the city of Conyers and Rockdale County. They are here to support Rockdale County and the residents of Rockdale County. It is too preliminary, too early at this stage for us to talk about what that outcome will look like. But I am appreciative that we've been in touch with several of our congressional partners. Our U.S. Senator's office we've been around the clock with all of our federal partners. As we move towards a summary and a close to this event, we will then at that time determine what does that closure look like and what type of participation from the federal government and the state partners that we have. It's way too early to talk about that, but we're excited the fact that we have them present. They're on the ground, they're here at ground zero with us, and we're counting on them for their support.
Are there any other resources that the county needs, any other partnerships that y'all need to draw on to handle the situation?
Yes, we need support from our citizens. We need our citizens that if you don't have to be outside, if you don't have to be on the roadways, stay home. We also want to ask our citizens that if you have elderly, family members and loved ones and senior citizens or anyone that you know that have a respiratory issue or problem, that you would take it upon yourself and check on them. We're also in contact with our local hospital, Piedmont Rockdale, with the leadership there. So every available resource that we need to be in contact with, we have already summoned. We're in constant communication again with our state legislative team as well as our federal legislative partners as well. One last question and we'll wrap this up.
So just to be clear,
If you decide to make a cup of coffee the old-fashioned way this morning, you're welcome to do that this morning. You can boil your water and drink your coffee this morning. According to our director of Rockdale Water Resources, the water in Rockdale County is still among the best in the state of Georgia. And the air quality is all right for us to stand out here for this press conference and breathe and move throughout the day. If you have respiratory issues, we're encouraging you to stay inside. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep you updated. Again, we encourage you to go to all of our media outlets and sources and platforms for additional information. There may be an opportunity for us to come back either later today or perhaps later this week for an additional press conference. I'm Chairman Oz Nesbitt. Thank you. We'll see you in the days ahead.